It began as a routine dive, nothing out of the ordinary, just another cold night in the Baltic Sea. Then the sonar screen flashed and something appeared, almost perfectly round, massive, and unlike anything ever recorded on the seabed. The crew froze. Within minutes, their cameras malfunctioned, the lights dimmed and every compass began to spin. When they tried again, the same thing happened. That was the first sign that something was wrong. What they discovered 300 feet below the surface would ignite a global wave of speculation, from theories about ancient civilizations to secret military projects to something far stranger. But before any of that, it was just a handful of exhausted divers staring at a glowing sonar image, realizing they might have found something that didn't want to be found. It was June 19th, 2011, the middle of the night on the cold waters of the Baltic Sea, sometime around 2 in the morning. The Ocean X crew had been at sea for almost a week, and everyone was worn out. They weren't a government-backed research team or a group of scientists with cutting-edge equipment. Ocean X was a small Swedish team led by Peter Lindberg and Dennis Osberg, treasure hunters who spent years searching for shipwrecks and lost cargo in the Baltic. Before that night, their old fishing vessel had already sprung a leak, forcing them to dock in Finland for quick repairs before heading back out. Now they were on their final search run before returning to harbour, scanning the seabed one last time. For hours, the sonar had shown nothing but the usual dull shapes and shadows. The crew sat half asleep, watching the screen in silence. Then, without warning, the quiet was broken by Floris Marseille, the ROV pilot. He leaned forward toward the monitor and called out to Dennis and Peter. On the screen was something massive. A perfect round shape had appeared against the black background of the sonar display. It was so clear and so strange that for a few seconds, nobody spoke. Then Peter Lindberg broke the silence with a laugh, saying, "Hey guys, here we have a UFO." The laughter didn't last long. Dennis Osberg later said the sight made his whole body shiver. He had seen plenty of wrecks before, but this was different.
I get goosebumps all over my body. I have never ever seen anything like that.
His first thought was that it wasn't a shipwreck at all. The structure looked clean, geometric and unnatural, as if it didn't belong on the seabed. Everyone crowded around the screen, trying to make sense of what they were looking at. The sonar image showed a clear circular outline, about 60 meters across. It seemed to rise from the seafloor like a dome. For a few minutes the crew just stared. Some whispered guesses, others shook their heads. They all agreed on one thing though. Whatever it was nothing they had seen before. Peter Lindberg turned to the crew and told them to keep quiet about it. The order was simple and everyone agreed. They didn't want rumours spreading before they had proof. Later, when they reached Stockholm, they shared the images with a few marine biologists and geologists. The experts admitted they had never seen anything like it either.
This whole anomaly is really intriguing, and I must say, I really can't say what it is.
At first, one wouldn't have an explanation for what this actually could be. It definitely requires more work.
That was the moment when Peter and Dennis realised their discovery was bigger than they thought. Not just another shipwreck or rock formation, but something that might change the rest of their careers. The only problem, nobody had actually seen it with their own eyes yet. That was about to change. After nearly a year of analysis and consultations with various experts, the Ocean X team prepared to return to the site on June 1st, 2012. Their initial discovery had been made through sonar, but this time they planned to see it firsthand. The crew stocked their vessel with diving gear, lights, cameras, and sampling tools, making sure everything was ready for a descent to nearly 90 meters. When the team arrived at the site, the sea was calm and the water was still, but everyone felt uneasy. They were about to see the object with their own eyes for the first time. Professional diver Stefan Hogerborn went down with the team that day. He had over 20 years of diving experience and more than 6,000 dives behind him. Yet what he would later describe was unlike anything he had ever faced. As the divers and the ROV closed in on the location, they began to notice very strange things.
When we swam over it, it looked like concrete or cement. And when we touched it, it turned black.
Hogerborn also realised the anomaly was harder than any rock he had worked with. He tried to scrape off a small piece, but his tools couldn't cut it. When Högborn got back to the surface, he shared even more bizarre details about the anomaly.
Så det här är kanten, det ligger dykaren. Så är det liksom som saker som går ut så här, som att kanterna är liksom som att de är gjutna ut så här.
Kan det vara magma som har kommit ut och kylts ner av havet
och här ligger helt plötsligt så här stenformationer, ser du? Så här, stenar som ligger som i en ring.
Allvarligt, som en häxring alltså.
Ja. De bara ligger jätteformade så här, som att någon har lagt upp dem så här.
The most unusual feature, however, was a hole Högborn described.
The most peculiar thing, or the strangest thing, was a hole. It was like a circle, 2 or 3 meters in width, and like a frame around it. I mean, like a square frame and a circular hole, and that's kind of weird.
The Ocean X crew returned to Stockholm with all their data and samples, eager to hear what professionals would say. They presented their findings to a group of marine experts, including Andreas Olsson, a specialist in underwater archaeology, who offered his perspective on the discovery.
A very sharp edge, and I haven't seen this before, and when I just look at it now, it definitely looked like.
Dennis Osberg decided the world needed to see what they had found, so he called a newspaper in Sweden. Once the story broke, it spread fast.
Buckle up, Star Wars nerds, you're gonna like this one.
What can only be described as the wreckage of a crashed spaceship.
Within days, the phones on the Ocean X ship rang non-stop. Osberg said he was getting calls from radio stations, television channels, and journalists from around the world. Peter Lindbergh's first offhand joke about a UFO on the bottom had become the main headline. The circular sonar image quickly spread across news networks and social media, catching everyone's attention. Many people pointed out how much it resembled Han Solo's Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, while others were convinced it looked like a crashed spacecraft resting on the ocean floor. The Ocean X team tried to stay objective when describing what they had found. In interviews, they explained that the structure was roughly 60 meters wide and sat about 90 meters below the surface, at the end of what appeared to be a 300-meter-long flat track stretching across the seabed. To understand what they were dealing with, the team collected several samples from around the site. Every piece was carefully logged and sealed before being shipped to Stockholm University for examination. Some of those samples were later forwarded to a laboratory in Israel for further testing. When the results came back, they only deepened the mystery. Most of the surrounding rocks were ordinary materials commonly found in the Baltic Sea: granite, gneiss and sandstone. But one particular sample stood out. Tests revealed traces of burnt organic material, something that didn't seem to fit with the rest of the natural seabed. There was more. One analysis carried out by Steve Weiner from the University of Texas suggested that some of the material included metals not known to form naturally. As the team continued sorting through their data, an odd detail from the original expedition began to surface. One of the original sonar files from the 2011 mission suddenly went missing. A colleague going through the old data noticed it wasn't there anymore. The missing file, called Line 16, had shown something on the seafloor just days before the team found the main anomaly. When word spread online that one of the original files had vanished, people began to speculate. Some said the data had been deleted on purpose to hide something. Others believed it was simply lost by accident during years of storage and transfer. Either way, it added a new layer of mystery to a story that had already captured the imagination of millions. Then, in 2019, that same file was recovered and studied. What it revealed shocked those who saw it. The sonar image showed another massive formation on the seafloor, roughly the same size as the second anomaly. The team named it Anomaly 3, or A3. However, to this day, the image of A3 has never been released publicly, leaving only descriptions and second-hand reports of what it might show. To understand why this was so significant, it helps to know about the other discoveries. The Ocean X team had already identified 2 unusual shapes deep below the surface of the Baltic Sea. The first, called A1, was the large circular object that started this entire mystery back in 2011. The second formation, A2, was found nearby. It was smaller and more angular, almost like a structure or debris field. A long trail, or skid mark on the seabed seemed to connect the two, stretching about 1,500 meters between them. Many believed this track looked as if something had slid or moved across the ocean floor before coming to rest at A1 and A2. Now, with this new discovery, A3 appeared to be part of the same cluster. When scientists analysed its position, they noticed something interesting. It seemed to face east, aligned with the direction of the stars in Orion's belt. That detail caught people's attention. Some began to wonder if A1, A2, and A3 were not random at all, but placed in a deliberate pattern, similar to how the three pyramids of Giza in Egypt line up with the same group of stars. The possibility was hard to ignore. If the three formations were truly aligned, it could mean that what lay on the seabed wasn't just a set of natural rock formations. It might be the remains of something ancient, perhaps even man-made, hidden for thousands of years beneath the cold waters of the Baltic. Of course, not everyone agreed. Many scientists argued that it was just a coincidence that nature can sometimes create shapes and alignments that look planned when they aren't. Even so, the idea reignited curiosity about the site. After years of silence, people started paying attention again. Researchers and enthusiasts began to revisit old maps, sonar scans, and photographs, hoping to find something they had missed. Discussions popped up on forums and blogs, each trying to make sense of what these strange shapes could mean. But by that time, the Ocean X team was facing serious problems. Nearly all of their funding was gone. When the story first broke in 2011 and 2012, the team had attracted worldwide media attention. The hype brought in sponsors and investors who wanted to be part of the discovery. Then, almost as quickly as it started, the excitement faded. The media lost interest and funding disappeared. Sponsors withdrew without warning, and future dives were quietly cancelled. Without money to pay for fuel, crew, or new equipment, the Ocean X team couldn't continue exploring. The large expeditions stopped. Updates from the group became rare, and as the years passed, people assumed the mystery had ended. But behind the scenes, a few members of the team and independent researchers never stopped looking. They kept studying the data, checking old sonar readings, and searching for any sign that there was still more to uncover beneath the Baltic Sea. And with the rediscovery of that missing file, they had one more reason to keep going. But while the experts were focused on science, people who lived by the sea were talking about something entirely different. Not long after the Ocean X story hit the headlines, people online began sharing their own theories and folklore. One Reddit comment caught my attention. I'm from Palanga, Lithuania, which is a coastal city that coasts the eastern part of the Baltic Sea. We have a lot of folklore tales about creatures coming in and out of the Baltic Sea. Look up Eagle Zalsiu Karalieni, meaning Eagle, Queen of the Serpents. I did my research, and it turns out the legend of Eagle, the Queen of the Serpents, is a story that every child in that area seems to grow up hearing. In the tale, the sea hides a secret kingdom beneath its surface. Sometimes, according to the story, beings from that kingdom come ashore before disappearing again. For people there, the sea has always been mysterious and alive, not just a body of water, but a place with moods and secrets. Across the coasts of Sweden and Finland, the same kind of talk appeared in small fishing communities. Older sailors told stories of lights that hovered over the horizon and vanished into the waves. Some spoke about star vessels that fell from the sky long ago. They said these fiery craft struck the sea and left behind strange whirlpools that lasted for days. Whether true or not, the timing of these old accounts began to sound familiar once people heard about the strange circular object found at the bottom of the sea. In Finnish folklore, there are stories of giants who once lived along the coast. They were said to build enormous circular forts that could cool storms and silence birds. People in the villages believed these forts were made by skylords, powerful beings who worked with light and thunder. The forts were always described as perfectly round, built from smooth stones, and glowing faintly when lightning struck nearby. Some of those stories say that these circles were swallowed by the sea after the giants disappeared. When the divers described seeing circular walls and strange corridors underwater, those old stories suddenly didn't sound so far-fetched to locals who had grown up hearing them. And then there are the stories of glowing water. A few residents along the Swedish coast have said that on rare nights the sea near certain areas shines with a pale blue light, even when the sky is dark and clear. Scientists often explain it as plankton reacting to movement, but some locals link it to something older, something deeper that has always been in the sea. To the people who live by the Baltic, these stories were never separate. They were all part of the same long whisper from the water, one that had been waiting for someone to finally listen. But for some people, the mystery went far beyond local legends. They believed the Baltic Sea was hiding something ancient, something man-made. The idea that the Baltic Sea anomaly might be a relic of a forgotten world began to grow soon after the first sonar images went public. Some researchers and independent explorers became convinced that it was not a natural formation at all, but the remains of a lost civilization that existed long before recorded history. According to this view, the structure is proof that an advanced human culture once lived in the northern regions of Europe, thousands of years before the Ice Age ended. Supporters place its origin roughly 14,000 years ago, during a time when glaciers still covered much of the continent. They believe this civilization was destroyed when the ice melted and the rising sea swallowed their cities. Peter Lindbergh, one of the men who discovered the object, has often mentioned the connection to Atlantis. In his view, the Baltic discovery could be one of the last pieces of that ancient world, preserved beneath layers of cold sediment. Those who share this belief say that what lies under the Baltic Sea is not a rock, but a monument built by people who vanished when the floodwaters came. People point to the shape of the anomaly as their strongest evidence. The formation seems to have clear right angles and flat planes that intersect perfectly. Some describe what look like carved terraces or steps leading down its sides. They see what appear to be arches, corridors, and a large dome sitting on top of the circular base. The dome, they say, may have once been used to focus sound or energy, designed to channel vibration toward an inner chamber. The circular hole, about 2 meters wide and bordered by a square frame that was also discovered, has been interpreted by some as a possible sacred symbol. They say the square stands for the Earth, and the small circle within it represents a number. Together they call it Jupiter the One, a mark of divine creation. According to them, this same symbol appears in ancient scripts from civilizations long forgotten. Some researchers who support the theory have even suggested that the structure could be a type of temple. They refer to what they call the Paleo-Stanford numeral 1, an ancient symbol of unity and power used by the people of Atlantis. In this reading, the entire monument was built to honor a single divine force known as the One. When explorers examined the seabed surrounding the anomaly, they noticed something else that seemed to support the story. A long trench stretches behind the object, running for nearly 1,500 meters before disappearing into deeper water. It looks like a scar across the ocean floor. Those who believe in the lost civilization theory describe this trench as the path of destruction that occurred when the structure came to rest, as if it had been pushed or dragged into place by a massive force. Diver reports added even more detail. Some spoke of black streaks and scorch-like marks on the surface of the structure. Others found traces of burnt organic material on nearby stones. These are seen to be proof of the remains of a catastrophic event that ended a world. They suggest that these marks could be burns from ancient energy or propulsion systems, evidence that the structure did not just rest there, but arrived violently, perhaps from the sky or from a place now lost to the sea. But not everyone was convinced the marks came from something ancient. Some thought the explanation might be far more recent and far more secret. After years of speculation about ancient ruins, another explanation began to take shape. This one sounded more like a Cold War thriller than an archaeological mystery. A few independent researchers and retired military analysts started to argue that the Baltic Sea anomaly might not be ancient at all. They believed it was man-made, but not by a forgotten civilization. Instead, they said it was a piece of Cold War technology designed to scramble radar and sonar signals, possibly a magnetic pulse generator that once shielded secret operations beneath the sea. The idea gained strength when people revisited the reports of equipment failure from the first expeditions. The Ocean X team had described how electronic devices near the object went haywire within about 200 meters. To supporters of the military theory, that wasn't a coincidence. They said the object was either still generating a residual electromagnetic field or had been built to do exactly that. A weapon meant to blind enemy radar. One name often comes up in this version of the story. Anders Tellus, a retired Swedish naval officer and historian, suggested the structure could be part of a World War II defence system built by the Germans. He pointed to the Baltic's history as a shipping route used to transport metal and supplies during the war. According to his theory, the anomaly might be a concrete base used to anchor underwater mesh nets. These nets were designed to trap submarines and confuse sonar by reflecting false echoes. The circular shape and large central hole reminded him of those old net anchors described in military blueprints. The secrecy surrounding the site only added fuel to the theory. The Ocean X crew began noticing heavy military traffic in the area. Here's a clip where they capture what appears to be a Navy ship passing nearby.
Suddenly we saw in the distance that this must be some kind of Navy ship heading directly on us.
85, 90. Oh, big?
Turned out to be a Navy ship, and actually a Swedish one. And it shouldn't be lurking around in those.
During one of their later surveys, the team borrowed equipment to scan for signal frequencies and picked up what they said was a channel linked to the Russian Navy. To some, that was proof that both sides were watching the same patch of sea for reasons no one was willing to explain. Osberg has claimed that he believes the government knows exactly what lies at the bottom and doesn't want anyone else to find out. He even claims the wave of bad press calling them scammers was deliberate, a way to keep them away from something that was never meant to be found. And that's when the story took an even stranger turn, because some people stopped looking at governments for answers and started looking at the sky instead. For some people, the mystery of the Baltic Sea anomaly has only one explanation. They believe it isn't a structure or a monument at all, but a crashed craft from somewhere beyond Earth. To them, the object's perfect circular shape, the burn-like streaks on its surface, and the strange trail behind it tell the story of a violent descent that ended deep under the Baltic Sea. And to be honest, it's hard not to admit that the image looks exactly like a saucer that had crash-landed and carved its own path through the seabed. Divers later confirmed what appeared to be a long trench leading up to the object. The Ocean X crew called it the runway. At first it seemed to stretch about 300 meters. Later, with better sonar imaging, the path turned out to be almost 1,500 meters long, nearly a mile. It began near an underwater mountain split by a canyon and ended directly beneath the circular formation. To ufologists, this wasn't a coincidence. They said the trench was the impact trail left when the craft hit the ocean floor. Some called it the skid mark of a fallen disc. As wild as the crash idea sounds, another theory takes it even further. What if the object wasn't a ship at all, but a living thing? There is a much smaller group that believes the formation is, in fact, alive. Not alive like a fish or coral, but as a single, slow-breathing organism that fell into deep sleep long before humans ever set eyes on it. To them, the object is not a ruin or a relic. It is something that still lives, only quieter than we can imagine. This idea comes from a mix of fringe biologists, explorers, and deep-sea spiritualists who follow unusual light and sound events in the ocean. When footage from the remotely operated vehicles was released, some noticed soft, timed flashes across the surface of the structure. The lights didn't seem random. They appeared to flicker in slow waves, as if coming from something that was pulsing under the crust. Even more unsettling were the rhythmic sounds recorded by sonar, steady, faint beats that echoed through the static. Listeners described it as hearing a slow heartbeat under layers of rock. To some, these are not echoes or mechanical faults. They are signs that the anomaly itself is alive. Two researchers, Natalia and Anatoly Solodovnik, explored this idea in their research paper titled Unidentified Submerged Object, Anomalous Phenomena in the Ocean. In their work, they suggested that some mysterious underwater objects might not be solid structures at all. Instead, they could be made up of countless microscopic gas bubbles clustered together to form what they described as a quasi-elastic body. These bodies act almost like living systems. They can move, pulse, and glow. When the bubbles collapse, they release sudden bursts of energy, which are tiny sparks of light known as sonoluminescence. The Solodovniks think this same process could explain the weak flashes seen near the anomaly, and even the strange electronic failures reported by divers. The lights, the sounds, the equipment interference all fit their model of a slow living energy field beneath the sea. Supporters of this idea point out that strange glowing wheels have been seen on the ocean for hundreds of years. Sailors once called them marine light wheels, or the devil's carousel. They described huge circles of light spinning across the waves, moving silently and vanishing without a trace. Scientists tried to connect them to bioluminescent plankton, but in many cases the glow was far too strong and too organised. The Solodovnik's theory ties these stories to the anomaly, suggesting both come from the same process of collapsed gas bubbles forming light inside the water itself. From there, the idea only grows wilder. Some deep-sea spiritualists believe the anomaly isn't just alive, it's part of a greater being, sleeping beneath the sea floor. They speak of energy patterns that match natural biological rhythms, and of sonar readings that resemble heartbeats. A few even claim the circular structure might be a protective shell, like the outer layer of a creature in hibernation. But if you think this mystery ends here, it doesn't. There are places thousands of miles away, with stories that sound almost identical. It's strange how stories like this don't just stand alone. They seem to repeat through time, like the same mystery replaying itself in different corners of the world. Thousands of miles away, beneath the waters of Japan's Okinawa prefecture, lies the Yonaguni megastructure. It was discovered by local diver Kihachiro Arataki in 1986, who first thought he'd stumbled upon a lost temple. When he brought back photos, scientists were divided. The structure had giant terraces, near-perfect 90-degree corners, and wide steps descending into the deep. Some said it looked like a sunken pyramid. A similar mystery exists off the coast of Cuba. In 2001, a Canadian research team scanning the ocean floor between Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula found what looked like a city buried under 600 meters of water. The sonar images showed large stone-like blocks arranged in geometric patterns such as pyramids, roads, and rectangular structures. Just like with the Baltic anomaly, the discovery made headlines at first, but then quietly faded away after experts disagreed on what it really was. Some claimed it was a natural formation. Others insisted it looked too organised to be random. Taken together, these findings hint at something larger, not necessarily connected, but curiously similar. Massive shapes where no structures should exist. Geometric patterns that mimic architecture. And always the same outcome. The world notices, argues, and moves on, leaving the questions half-answered at the bottom of the sea. But not everyone was convinced these discoveries were signs of lost worlds. Some people decided to dig into the science instead. As the mystery spread across the internet, a very different kind of team stepped in to look at it. Not treasure hunters or divers this time, but marine geologists. Scientists who spend their lives studying how the ocean floor forms, changes, and moves. To them, the Baltic Sea anomaly wasn't an alien ship or a lost city. It was a question of geology. Researchers from Stockholm University, along with experts from the Geological Survey of Sweden, started by collecting mineral samples from the site. When they analysed the material in their labs, they found it was made up of granite, gneiss, and sandstone. Dr. Volker Bruckert had explained these findings to Peter Lindberg and Dennis Osberg years earlier.
The side that I sort of smacked clean, you see it has very fine crystals that indicate that, fine crystals often indicate that we had a molten rock, and the molten rock chilled very rapidly, and therefore the crystals didn't have time to grow. And therefore, that's how we identify a volcano.
He went on to state how that type of rock could have ended up there in the first place.
My best interpretation is that glaciers have transported it there.
Over the years, scientists have compared the anomaly to other known glacial features in the region. The images showed smooth, curved edges and grooves carved in directions that matched the path of retreating glaciers from the last ice age. They pointed out that ice sheets more than 1 kilometre thick had dragged boulders, crushed layers of rock, and gouged out depressions across the seafloor. These same slow, grinding movements could easily have created the round shape now called the anomaly. In some areas, the team found long scratches and ridges that looked just like the marks left by ancient glaciers under the North Sea and near Finland. To geologists, these were clear signs of ice movement from thousands of years ago. What some thought were steps or walls on the sonar images were likely layers of sandstone that had cracked naturally over time. When the scientists compared mineral samples taken near the anomaly to others from nearby sites, they matched almost exactly. That suggested the object wasn't made of a different material, just exposed rock shaped into a circle by the slow motion of ice and water. The doubts didn't end there. Sonar analysts also raised issues about how the images were collected in the first place. Hanumant Singh from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution explained that the only sonar image OceanX released had major issues. He said the equipment used was low quality, poorly wired, and not properly calibrated, making the scan almost useless for identifying anything on the seafloor. Other experts who reviewed the data agreed that the sonar image couldn't be used to draw firm conclusions. The scan had too much interference, and the low resolution made natural features appear sharper and more geometric than they really were. In simple terms, what looked like straight lines or smooth edges might have just been shadows or noise from the equipment. Without clear imaging or physical samples from the main structure itself, scientists said it was impossible to tell whether the formation was anything other than rock. But even after all the studies, debates and theories, the site remains untouched. No new expeditions have gone back, no new samples have been taken, and the object itself hasn't shifted at all. The coordinates are the same as the day the OceanX team first marked them. The slow Baltic current still shifts sand and silt over it, sometimes covering it up and sometimes revealing it again.